you bring up Crown again, and I want to ask this question before we move on because I'm just genuinely curious. You obviously did 2 summers at Crown, one at BD.
Mhm.
Can you give some examples of like things about the approach to drumming conceptually that the staff taught between the two groups? If that question makes sense.
Sure. You know, I don't want to totally overthink it, and the easiest answer is just that it's really not that much different. The biggest way I can compare it is that you're just at Crown, we just played with a little more velocity. You gotta, with that horn line and how loud that horn line plays, you just have to hit the drum if you want to be heard. And if you're not playing loud enough, the horn line's just going to completely overpower you. So most of what we did at Crown was just pretty much exactly the same technique-wise, in terms of the motions and what muscle groups you're using. All of that is exactly the same. I mean, it's taught by a lot of Rhythm X people at Crown. All those guys are Rhythm X alumni. So in terms of all that stuff, it's nothing crazy or different than what I was doing at Blue Devils or Rhythm X. But at times, you just got to hit the drum a little harder. You got to be able to play with some oomph. Specifically in terms of just playing rolls, you got to be able to play loud rolls. And you can tell that obviously, like especially in 2018, we had some really, really big 5-lit roll, triplet roll passages where it's I just remember being out on, I don't know if you guys called it spaghetti back then, but
yes, we did.
Yeah, so just out with Sean Mack and Dan tracking 8 and 25, 8 and 50, 8 and 75, just triplet rolls at Fortissimo, So being able to play really, really loud was really important at Crown, which wasn't quite the case at BD. But in terms of the technique and the motions and all that, it's essentially the same. There's only so many ways that you can do things, technique-wise.
Yeah.
Generally, you want to use small muscles for faster things, bigger muscles for more open, large things. But in terms of the technique, yeah, it's not really any different.
How much time did BD talk about, like, because the way a BD plays and they look, to me, comes off as very stylized. Was that something that's defined explicitly, or is it kind of like the vets already play like this and you just kind of naturally morph to match them, or do they actually take time to break down, like, all right, when we play big, we're going to come more straight up instead of out?
Yeah, there's a few specific things. So that's the big one. So in terms of like big double stop hits, that was a weird one for me. I've seen so many, stopped action shots of Crown drumline, and the snare drums are like, holding up these field goal posts, right, with the sticks. And at BD, you go straight up with the sticks together. Just kind of just little technique differences. But I'm trying to think of any other ones that we did. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that's definitely a specific one. No, I can't really think of any reason why. It's just a little bit different.
No, it's just what they've done.
Stylistic choice.
Kind of, BD's got some traditions like that they've held on to, even through all these drastic changes drum corps has gone through over the past probably decade. And I like it a little bit. Like, there's a lot of holdover from if you go watch like 06, 07, 08 BD to even this past summer, which is really cool to me that they've held on to some of those things. And they've also evolved in certain ways too, obviously. But
yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that we did like differently, but I can't think of anything in terms of the drumming. I can't think of much that we did differently. What I can say about the rehearsal is that the easiest. I have a lot of people that message me on Instagram and say, "What's the biggest difference between Crown and BD? Like, what do you think?" And the biggest thing that I can say is that anyone who's marched Crown can say that they spent a lot of time in music rehearsal. There's a lot of time in battery block. Obviously, if you're in the color guard, you're not working on music stuff. But horn line is always in the horn circle, working on stuff. Drum line's always in battery block, tracking, doing stuff. Which obviously we do that at BD. But what Crown does with music, BD does with visual. They spend so much time in visual rehearsal. Every single morning block, we'd be in, visual. Sometimes we'd be playing, most of the time we'd be playing at the end of the season, but in spring training, or we call it all days then, there's times where we would be playing, or not playing rather, we'd be doing 2 blocks a day of visual, just learning drill and working on stuff, and we wouldn't even touch our drums. We wouldn't even play a note.
I remember my friend Dean told me that. He's like, dude, I haven't played my quads in 2 days. I'm like, what?
Yeah, man, it's from being at a group like Crown where we just play all the time. It's very different and very hard to get used to. I mean, obviously,
it probably almost makes you feel nervous, like I should be doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes the music isn't where it needs to be, and I was super thankful for the guys that marched next to me, Danny Pendergrass, RCC Blue Devil snare drummer. You just always have to keep telling me, like, dude, it's okay. It's like, we're gonna be fine. You gotta chill.
It's
and we were. It was fine. We ended up doing fine.
Yeah, like it's so funny to hear, and we've heard other BD alums say the same thing. Like Evan just said, Dean was like, I haven't touched my quads in 2 days, because Evan and I would always talk to each other when tour would first start, post our marching careers, and we're like, man, BD sounds terrible right now. Like, have you heard their drum line right now? Like at like the second show, and then we found out like, oh, they just like don't clean music that much during spring training,
because they're so worried about putting the right package on the field. They know that by the end of the season it's going to be clean.
And Ryan had alluded to that too. He's like, they basically like put it in your shoes, like, hey, we designed the perfect show. Now it's like, it's on you guys. Like, we gave you the information, you just got to execute it. So if you execute it, you're going to win.
Well, that's another thing, is you got to be able, that's like the mental aspect of it, right? You got to be able to be just as successful with way less reps. You got to be able to, okay, you're doing this, you got to execute that rep perfectly right now. And you might not get another one for another 10 minutes, just because of the way that they rehearse. Obviously, long breaks, long water breaks, a lot of downtime. You got to be able to just pick up your drum and just execute. Just do it, which takes a lot of mental energy and mental fortitude to be able to do stuff like that.
Hey, it works. The proof is out there. So.
Yeah.